What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Scott Kumler, and this is the podcast where we break down real strategies from agents who are actually winning in today's market. And today's episode is a must watch if listings are your goal. I'm sitting down with someone who is an absolute listing machine, a true listing queen, Peyton Chavez. Peyton has built her business by mastering the art of listing appointment, not chasing buyers, not scrambling for deals, but walking into homes with confidence, control, and a repeatable process that gets sellers to say yes. In this episode, Peyton takes you step by step through how to list like a boss. We break down how she positions herself as the obvious choice before the appointment even happens, what she says and doesn't say in listing consultations, how she handles objections without discounting her value, and how agents can build a listing first business that creates leverage, freedom, and consistency. If you're tired of competing on commission, tired of chasing business, or ready to become the agent sellers want to work with, this episode is for you. And as always, if this conversation gets you thinking bigger and you want to explore what a partnership with me and my organization looks like, feel free to call or text me at 623-387-2688 or book a Zoom meeting on my calendar link below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss conversations like this in the future. All right, let's get into it. Here's my interview with Peyton Chavez. All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Got a very special guest today. I'm super excited to have on today. She's actually in my own backyard. We're both in Arizona. So Peyton Chavez, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Scott. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here. I know it's been a long time coming. We've been partnered for a while now, and I know you've been reaching out to me, and I'm so glad to be here. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, before I kind of get into the nuts and bolts of what you do and all the coaching you provide and stuff like that, I'm always curious about your journey and what got you into real estate to begin with. So for all the viewers listening, kind of give us a little bit of background on yourself, what got you into real estate and what does those first early days look like?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I actually was originally licensed in Seattle in Washington State. And how I got started, I actually moved to LA for a year. And when I moved out there, the goal was to start an interior design firm. And I quickly realized that that was not what I wanted. And also, LA was not my vibe. So I love LA. I love to vacation there and get over there in the summer when it's a little too hot here in Arizona. But I moved back to Seattle and realized that I wanted to get into real estate because it played to both the interior design and, real estate, being in beautiful homes and working with clientele. So I decided to get my real estate license and I failed the first test and I took it again. And here we are. So I got licensed in Seattle first and then got dual license. And now I'm licensed in Arizona and cover both states and primarily in Arizona these days.
Nice, nice, awesome. So, kind of take me back to the early days, like as a brand new agent, fresh out of school. Obviously you're crushing it right now, but what do those early days look like? Like, what did you decide to do from a business standpoint? Like, what type of business did you go after? What were your main lead generation sources, especially for brand new agents maybe that's watching it? It's like, where do I get started in real estate?
Absolutely, yeah. So I got started about 9 years ago, pushing 10 years in the business. So thinking back to that time, I was young, I was 21. My concern at the time was, I'm young. I'm a young agent in the business, and I didn't own a home at the time. So I felt like I was selling something that I didn't, represent, but it was something that I overcame and I dressed the part, I acted the part, I moved the way that I, wanted to portray myself. And I got myself in an environment around agents that were high producing. They were making noise in the industry and making a name for themselves locally and throughout the state with very high producing agents. So that was really important to me, is to be around the right people. So I got around the right people, and then lead gen strategies that I focused on was open houses and cold calling, and then just my sphere and building relationships everywhere I go. So really nurturing relationships, because that's what this business is all about. It's not about calling for transactions or calling for leads. It's calling to build relationships. If you really, care about people and want to grow your network, the greatest resources we have is humanity and our relationships. So that was a big thing for me. And then the open houses is such an incredible opportunity. You get to get out there, you get to speak to buyers and potential sellers of neighbors coming into the property to check it out and, have those conversations that you wouldn't have had being at home or doing cold calling and things like that. You're actually in the field. You have to stand, have the body language, walk people through a home, stand with authority. And open houses were my bread and butter. I did that every week for a very long time, probably 3 years into the business. That's what I was doing every weekend. I didn't go to parties. I didn't, uh, you know, go to any events on the weekends. I always said no. That was my time to work was weekends. I'm working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Usually I would push through to midnight and beyond, but the weekends were prime time for real estate because you have people coming in, open houses who are looking for a while now. They don't have a real estate agent. And that was your time to pitch yourself and present value to them so that they will, ultimately work with you. So that was a great tool. And then cold calling, I did briefly. I probably did that for maybe 8 month stint. Got my first listing and got another listing because of that listing, and then it just snowballed and it really, grew into something that was unstoppable. So I've never had to worry about where my next deal was coming from, and I think that is, attested to all the strategies and the efforts that you put in and having different, all these different resources that you're using to build relationships and build your network so you have business that will come in from these different strategies and efforts that you apply.
Yeah, and there's a couple things I want to hit on what you just said. The first is, especially with the open houses, I love the fact that you're consistent with them every single weekend because that's where I think a lot of agents struggles. They don't realize when they get in real estate that they still need to create a schedule for themselves, even though they're their own boss. They have
Right.
to create their own schedule. And so what you did was is highly important. So for any agents that are listening right now, it's important that whether it's open houses, whether it's calling expires, whatever that may be, that you set a consistent schedule and then you stick to it and then it becomes your non-negotiable. So I love the fact that you did that with open houses because obviously that's one of the reasons why you had success with it because you didn't just do it when you felt like it. You did it when, it's like, hey, this is my schedule every single weekend. And then another thing you mentioned was about your sphere and your network that you had that you got a lot of business from. And I talked to a lot of agents in my career, especially brand new agents that maybe are interviewing different brokerages, and I'll ask them about how the interviews went and stuff like that. And one of the things they always kind of like poo-poo when I'm having the conversation is they're like, "Oh, well, I talked to this brokerage, but they told me that if I want to be successful in real estate, I just have to call everyone I know." And they get discouraged and they're like, "Well, that doesn't sound like a lead generation strategy, right?" But the reality it is, and your network is going to have the highest impact on your success as well too. And people don't typically, especially agents, don't typically utilize that enough. So, obviously you've built a huge sphere-based business as well, especially after the initial 3 years. You got a lot of repeat business, a lot of people that that reach back out to you. What kind of strategies do you implement to stay in touch in front of your friends, family, and maybe your past clients?
Definitely. Yes, I agree. I think everybody gets really scared when they hear I have to call my sphere and start with your A's in your contact list and work your way down. And that it is like, well, what am I calling for? I'm going to annoy them or I'm bombarding them or what am I going to say? I haven't talked to them in years. And it really is a different approach. It is calling them and just asking them how they're doing. What are you doing? What are you up to? How was the holidays? How was the weekend? How was 4th of July? Congratulations on your baby. I saw you got married. That's exciting. Where'd you get married? You just inquire that way. And then naturally they're going to reach out and respond with, well, what are you up to? What's new in your life? And then that's where you can talk about real estate. And, new agents or seasoned agents, I know there's a lot of seasoned agents that never ever called their sphere. And had they done that, or even if they apply it now, will, significantly increase their business. And yeah, it's just a really great tool. I think a lot of people think their network isn't very valuable, or, oh, I don't have anybody in my network that's going to buy or sell, or I didn't come from, wealth. And, I grew up in a small suburb or whatever the case may be. I came from middle class, had a great life. And it's not like I had multimillionaire, family and friends around me. And it doesn't matter. All those people who know people who know people. And if you just call them and build a relationship, or, a lot of times what I like to implement as well is social media, because all of those people that are in my contact list, I work to get them on social media so that they can see what I'm doing, I can see what they're doing, and then we can engage that way because I'm on social media anyways. I post for my business, I post to attract clients, but I also post and engage with all of my sphere and everybody that I follow. And that's a way of staying in front of them. So if they post something that I think's cute, or if they post, an update on their life, I'm going to say something. I'm going to respond to their story. I'm going to comment on their post. I'm going to like it. I'm going to share it. And that goes a long way for when their right time to buy or right time to sell comes. They're going to be thinking of me because I've continuously touched them. And that's through the phone calls that you make. So you go through your sphere, see how they're doing, what they're doing. Be on social media. You're also going to send a newsletter in the mail. It could be anything. It's going to go in the recycling bin anyways. So just put something on there, put it of value. It doesn't matter. It's all going to be garbage and nobody's going to keep it unless it's your parents or grandparents who just adore you. But it's going to end up with a recycling bin and that shouldn't hurt your feelings at all. It's still worth it because it sat on their counter for maybe a week if you're lucky, or maybe a day, or maybe literally 2 seconds. But they saw your name and now you're top of mind again. And then you also hit them in the newsletter every single week via email and providing value there. So you have all these different touch points that are going out. And then if you host events or you host a Christmas party or you're hosting a happy hour, send the invite to these people so they get the invite. A lot of times they won't come or they won't respond. And that's okay because they still got the touch point. So that as these touch points are going out, it's going out, it's going out, and you're getting closer and closer, and they're getting closer and closer to buying or selling. And then you keep touching, and then you're able to capture them when that time comes. But if you have no touch points and they're getting closer and closer and closer, and then you still haven't touched, maybe 8 months ago, and then they go to open house and they're ready, who's getting that lead? That other agent. So it's really important to continue to hit them. And a lot of agents, I hear this all the time and I hate it. It needs to be completely eliminated from everybody's vocabulary. Is the Oh, well, she ghosted me. Oh, he ghosted me. They did not ghost you. Like there no response is a response. And they read your message. I'm sure they read it, or I'm sure they opened it and now you're top of mind. But you got to hit them again. You got to share some value. Hey, interest rates are right here. It's pretty awesome right now. Blah, blah, blah. Hey, your neighbor just sold for XYZ. Pretty cool. Hey, I'm inviting you to a happy hour if you want to attend. And you just keep going and keep going and keep going. And then in a year and a half, you have all this thread of no responses. But at that year and a half, when they're ready and you still hit them and that final one comes, boom, you grab them and they're like, hey, we're ready to make a move. We appreciate all the value you've been sharing. We're so sorry that we didn't get back to you. It's always, we're so sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't get back to you. And it's not, hey, you were super annoying. I never want to work with you. It's always, hey, I'm sorry, life got crazy, but I appreciate the value and I want you to sell my house. So it's so, 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 so important to stay in front of them. And I'm so glad you mentioned that because it's not a one call and then okay, cool, check that off for the year. It's literally every month or every week or every couple weeks that you're hitting these people until the timing meets the follow up.
Mhm.
So most of the time you don't hear a response. Most of the time you get voicemail. Most of the time you leave a voicemail, they won't call you back. And that's okay because you got the voicemail in. Now they're thinking of you when they go to the barbecue for the weekend and then somebody says that they want to sell and oh, my real estate agent just reached out to me. Here's her number, reach out to her.
Yep.
So that is so true. Staying in touch with them, the follow up, the touch points is critical.
Yep. And I love the fact you talk about the newsletter idea too. I think that's such a underutilized tool because all it is providing value. It's not even salesy. It's just you're basically providing value to people, which I think is highly important. I think I need to implement that more in my business. As far as that's concerned, and especially when it comes to, sphere, I mean, the saying goes, your own mother will forget your real estate agent unless you consistently remind her, so,
Yeah,
it's good to stay in front of people consistently. So, now
absolutely.
I want to transition a little bit, a little bit away from lead generation to listings because you obviously crush it when it comes to listings, selling people homes. And one of the things I know we're talking about this before the podcast today, right now, especially in the Arizona market, obviously every market's a little bit different. It's hyper local, everything like that. So, but in Arizona market, obviously it's harder to sell homes because homes are sitting in the market a little bit longer, and there's not as many buyers out there. There's not so much demand, but there's a ton of listings that consistently are hitting the market. And one of the things that we see is listings sit for a long time. Well, you actually have never had a listing expire before, and you actually sell your listings fairly quick. So tell me, and what is it that you do, especially take it from like the beginning, like when you meet a client for the first time, a lot of it comes down to communication with your client. So kind of take me through that process. What does that look like when you are sitting down at the kitchen table with a client, getting ready to list their home?
Absolutely. Yes. Listings are my jam. I am the listing queen. I absolutely love it. And it's such a fun role to play in this business because it's where it all starts. If there's not a house for sale, nobody can buy the house. So the listing agent is critical to the sustainability of the market and real estate in general. So that is a big question that you asked of start to finish listings. So I actually am working on a course that's going to roll out at the end of the year that has everything start to finish because every conversation is nuanced. I know we talk about this, together all the time about that dialogue, and I know you share it with your agents, is so important that when you deliver the data, you deliver your marketing, that part doesn't even really matter. It's how you share it with them and the conversations that you share. And when the conversations get tough and you're in a spot where you need to make a price improvement, or when you're initially pricing a home, if they have very high expectations because of the way the market used to be, or the fact that they only bought it 3 years ago and they're going to have to, take a loss on the property, it really is a tricky situation to be in, and having the right language and the right scripts is important. But from start to finish, if I have a seller or a lead that is a potential seller, or there's hints that they might make a move in the near future, I'm hitting all those touch points. Touch points are going out, values going out, newsletters are going out. And a lot of the stuff is AI. Like it's not like you have to put that much energy and effort into it. It's automated newsletters, it's automated mailers that go out that you just continue to add to the list when you add new people to your network. So those are going out, and that's already building authority for you and credibility for when the time comes that you're at the listing appointment or that you're securing the listing. And so before the appointment, I like to send a video that just says, "Hey, I'm going to be, coming by. We're going to," what we all know as a listing appointment. To the consumer, they don't understand what that means. They're just meeting with their real estate agent and showing them the house, and they have no idea what's going to happen at this appointment. We know we're going in and we're working to get our listing agreement signed and walk out of there with a listing. So for them, they have no idea. They don't do this as often as us. We do this full time. We're in and out of listing appointments, every week. And for them, they need to have an understanding of what's about to happen. So I'll send over an email of expectations of what's going to happen at the listing appointment. I don't label it a listing appointment. I just say, "Hey, look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Here's what we're going to be going over. We're going to walk through the property. You're going to show me all the things that you've improved over the years, and tell me a little bit about all the things that you loved about living here." Because a lot of times with a property, you don't know all the perks and benefits and bells and whistles until you're actually in it and living in it. And so when you're marketing a property, you need that information because there's so much value there that's most of the listings aren't highlighting any of that. I was just talking to a seller and they were telling us that, oh, one thing that people aren't going to be able to see, but it's an incredible feature of the home when you live in it, is the moon every night. And they're like sitting in their backyard and they're like, you have no idea the way that this positions with the moon. It literally goes across the sky right here. So all year you get these moons. Well, when do you ever see that in a listing? Like that's never on the marketing remarks. It's never anywhere. All you get is, oh, this is a 3-bed, 2-bath, 3,000 square foot home. And you just get the basic data, but you need to like sell the vision and sell the lifestyle. This is where people lay their head at night. This is where big life monumental things happen. They laugh, they cry, they have deaths, and they have, very meaningful moments in their home. So you got to be able to speak to the lifestyle. And so getting that from the seller when you walk through the home. And as you go through, I think an important thing is this is so scary for them. It's a big process and they're overwhelmed and they think they have to do so much to get the property sold. And really, it's up to us on how we guide that conversation. So as you're walking through, when you send this email, you're going to say you're going to walk through the home, and then we're going to take a time to sit down and go over pricing strategy, the marketing plan, and what we're going to do to sell your home. And then you can, share your timeline and what your plans are and what you need to do next, so that we can help game plan how this needs to go. And as I take them, or they take me through the home, I say, okay, yeah, go ahead and, bring me around the home, point out anything that you've done over the years. And, any little thing, even if you added new doorknobs and new door hinges or cabinet pulls, whatever it is, tell me about it. And so as I go, I have a clipboard, or I have my Remarkable, which is awesome if you don't have it, a little Remarkable pad. It keeps all your notes in one place. It's electronic. And I go through and I write all the notes. And as they see that, there's also psychology behind it. As I'm taking notes, they feel heard. Literally, psychologists do this, and it makes the the client or the patient feel great.
Mm,
So as you're going around, you're taking notes, and then as the seller shares things, that they'll always point out all the terrible things about the home.
mm,
They'll point out that, their dog peed on the carpets, and they are, should I have to replace those? I'm probably gonna have to replace those. Or, oh, look at what my son did. And they pull back a poster or a picture, and there's a hole in the wall. And then like, I know I'm gonna have to take care of that. And they're going into like a negative frame of mind. And they're gonna point that out all the time. And as you go through, you're taking notes, be like, oh, okay. Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Well, let's just keep going and just keep them moving throughout the home. Because if they focus on the negatives, or you're like, oh yeah, we'll take care of that. We're gonna have to get that done. We'll get a drywall person to come out here and patch it and paint it, whatever. Even that, like, you made it sound simple, but that sounds daunting because they're like, okay, if I have to do that, then I'm gonna have to get the carpets. Then I haven't even shown her the bathroom yet, and I haven't shown her the water damage over here. And so you just want to keep happy and positive. It's all good. I've walked through the worst homes
mm.
and they're pointing out all these things. I'm like, oh, yeah, no problem. We'll take care of that before closing. There's broken windows. And I'm like, yeah, no biggie. Let's just keep moving. And you're taking notes so that you always have this as you're going. And then once you get to the kitchen table or wherever you're going to be, sometimes it's in Arizona, we're out in the backyard just standing around the pool and it's fantastic, or around the outdoor kitchen. But oftentimes it's kitchen table or a kitchen island or whatever. And so that is a very intimate moment. You're in somebody's home and they're nervous and you just saw everything. You walked through their intimate closet and all their things. So you're already super comfortable with them, that they brought you in. This is like their sanctuary, their safe space. And when you're at that point, it's important to look comfortable, feel like you belong there, get comfortable in their seat, don't get too comfortable, but just be confident. And I think that that's a big piece. People will go in and they're all suited and booted and they're uncomfortable and they got their hands in the pockets, or they're, standing stiff. And it's like, hey, do you mind if I take a seat at the table? We can all sit down, and, you initiate and you guide the conversation and you get them to sit down at
Mm.
the kitchen table. I'm sure the kitchen table conversations are very intimate and you can see how nervous they are.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I love that. And so, obviously you do an amazing job when it comes to selling homes, listing homes. And like I said, you haven't, even actually had a listing expire before. What is the biggest mistake? Because obviously a lot of agents don't have that same type of success. A lot of agents list the property, it sits in the market, it expires, and then they end up, to kind of repeating the cycle, right? So what do you think the biggest mistake that agents make when it comes to listing a property is?
The marketing. At the end of the day, it's all comes down to the marketing, because even pricing is a form of marketing.
Mm,
There's different strategies you can use for pricing that is part of your marketing plan.
mm,
And it's either bad photo, it's either one or a combination of these or all of these.
mm,
But ultimately, it comes down to how you're positioning your property to the market, which is your marketing, which is through pricing, it's through your photos, it's through the videos, it's through the, data, the details that you have on there. It's through your supplemental documents that you could use to pitch the home, exclusive on the MLS that only agents have access to. It's the actual marketing remarks, like the paragraph that you get. Sometimes you have limitations depending on your state of how many characters you can use. So use those like thoughtfully. There's so many times where in the marketing remarks, people just say, this is a gorgeous 3 bedroom, four, 2 bath, blah, 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 blah. 2,800 square foot, da, 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 da. That's already in your details. So why would you repeat it? People already know when they're searching for their property and their search parameters that if your home popped up, we already know it's in the parameters. They're going to see that in the details below. So you only get so many times to market the home, and it's through the details, making sure that those are all completely filled out. I've had people who we've taken over listings that previously said it was on septic, but it was actually on connected sewer. Well, if someone has connected sewer, they do not want septic in their search, they're not going to see the property. So you got to make sure your details are accurate. There's so many things that I've seen that are just little attention to detail that they missed. Or the
mm,
square footage was wrong. You go to the tax record, there's actually 300 square feet more. If you have 300 square feet more, that's going to open up a bigger buyer pool, and that's going to get your price is going to look fantastic because the price per square foot's way better. And it's so many times when I've taken over expired listings where it's been details like that. We have another one that they had the square footage that we're taking over. It's a $2.5 million property in Scottsdale, and they had the square footage as 3,000 square feet flat. What home is built as 3,000 square foot flat? That's clearly not accurate. So it seems like you're lying. It's actually like 74 square feet under 3,000. But
Mm.
if you market it at that, and then somebody finds out that that's not correct, well, then what else are you lying about? And then on top of that, there's other things that were missing in the listing that, it's a gorgeous community. It has a gated community that wasn't marked on there. So if somebody has their search set up, especially at that price point, they want a gated community for their kids. That's, luxury living. You need to have a gated community. A lot of people have that in their search, and it wasn't in there. It's actually a 4 bedroom, but it was listed as a 3 bedroom. All you need to do is add a little closet or a wardrobe, and now you have a fourth bedroom. So you're missing a huge opportunity of a buyer pool, especially from 3 to 4 bedroom at that price point, and you're missing the gated, and you have the square footage weird, and amongst other things. But there's so much that goes into the marketing, and that's why representing a listing is like a huge project and it's a huge role to take on because this is people's livelihood. This is their greatest asset. You have to take that on and have pride in your work and your attention to detail and really like lock in for these guys because that's how you're going to get raving fans. That's going to how you're going to get repeat business. That's how I've never had to worry about where my next deal was coming from because people rave about what I offer them. Like they're like, no, 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 no. Don't list with that person. You need to call Peyton first, have her come out, just at least have the call or at least have the interview. And then every time you go to it and they're, oh yeah, absolutely. There's no shot I'm working with that person. And it comes down to all the marketing and all those pieces. And there's a lot of psychology in there. And it's just something that I love because I love to see, human nature and how they look at things. And photos and video, I feel like are pretty straightforward. If you have a picture and you have the closet open, it looks like trash, or you take a picture of a messy garage, like why are you even posting that on there? Or you have a property that's 3,000 square feet and you see agents posting like 84 photos on the listing. Like there's no reason to come tour the property. I've already seen every single inch of the house. I've seen every single closet. I've seen every, you know, anything that you could possibly think of, and I don't need to go because I don't want it. But if you have a property that's 3,000 whatever square feet and you only have 35 curated beautiful photos that are twilight drone, you know, gorgeous, then obviously I'm peaked. I want to go see. I want to go see what the garage looks like. I want to see the 3-car garage. Or was there a homeowner's closet that's a walk-in? I want to go look because they didn't post it. So a lot of times I'll keep something out that they can come and be impressed by. So like laundry room, if there's a laundry room and it's not doesn't photograph well, then I just don't show it. And then they get there and they're like, wow, it's full, so many cabinetry and there's a utility sink. This is awesome. Or the homeowner's closet, they didn't see it because you want them to be wowed when they get there, or they want to, I wonder what that looks like, babe. We should go schedule a tour. So marketing is huge. There's so many pieces, but it's crazy that that is the difference. Like that's how you move property
Mhm.
is that it's through the pricing strategy and it's through the delivery and like what you have available. We also have upgrades and feature sheets that are very detailed, that are at the properties that are in our sign box. We don't put the price on the flyers because you want them to call you so that you could sell the property. Because if they look at it and they're like, this says it's 2.5 million, that's not worth it. Not the right price, and they don't call you or they don't, look at it. But if they do call you because they want to know the price, now you can tell them everything that's beautiful about the price and the views and the swim up bar and blah blah blah, and then you hit them with the price. So then they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense for the price. And now you have their contact info. So now you have a lead and now you can follow up with them. Now you can add them to your drip system until they're ready and then you capture them.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I love the fact you talked about the MLS being information being correct because I can't tell you how many times I see information that's inaccurate. That I even advise my clients sometimes. I always like take it with a grain of salt. Let me do the research for you
Right.
because it may not always be accurate. I tell my agents the exact same thing too. It's like you have to do the research yourself because a lot of people are kind of lazy when it comes to putting information in MLS, and most information is inaccurate. They might just copy previous listings, or they may like look at miss stuff, that there's like, I don't want to fill that out or fill that out, and so then there's things that are missing. So definitely take that with a grain of salt. And I know you
No, that
did.
is so true about the buyer side. Like, hey, buyers, I know agents, this is human error. This is a human inputting this. And this could all be inaccurate. So we do need to verify everything. That's so true. I'll definitely implement that language in there as well because, yeah, they'll ask you a question and then you're like, oh, the HOA dues are this. And then you find out that they're actually $100 more and they don't include, water, sewer, garbage. And now, your buyer's not interested. But had they just put the right information, we would have been in a better spot. So,
Yeah, now I know the other thing you kind of briefly talked about too was pricing strategy, kind of in marketing as well too. And I find that to me, one of the hardest things for real estate agents to do is to have the pricing conversation with their clients when they're sitting down at a kitchen table because most of the
yes.
time all sellers think their house is worth more, way more than what it is, right? And so, and even if you run comps and you believe that the house is worth so much, a lot of times an agent is afraid to have those conversations with the seller and they just agree to whatever the seller wants to list their price at because of the fact that they're afraid of that conflict, and they're afraid of having that conversation. They're afraid of losing out on a listing. They're like, I don't want to lose a listing, so I'm just going to tell them whatever they want to hear so I can get this listing. So
Yeah.
that's so important to be honest with your clients and sellers when it comes to having those conversations. So how do you typically have those type of conversations at the kitchen table? And how do you navigate that?
Right. Yeah. That's a great question. And I completely agree. It is the worst possible thing you could do for your seller client is price it where they want it or price it and be just wanting to make them happy with the price. It's a disservice to them. It's a disservice to you. You're going to have to make a price improvement anyways, and you're wasting their time and they hired you to help them price it properly because they don't know what they're doing. This is their first, maybe fourth time selling a home where you've sold, 50 homes a year. You're the one who's supposed to be the expert in guiding them through that. So the pricing conversation, that part for me isn't difficult. And I'll go into the part that the worst part of the job for me that I hate doing. And it's probably the first time I ever said it like publicly, but I hate pricing a home. It is the worst part of the job. It's so like data driven, it's so minute, it's so working with numbers, it's adjusting for this house has a three car, this house has a two. What's the value there? This one has a gorgeous pool, but it doesn't have a spa, or yeah, it doesn't have a spa, but this one does. This one has great views. It is the worst, literally the worst part of the job. But as far as the delivery of the pricing, because I did so much market data, I feel so comfortable sharing the price because I know that the market has my back. And it's not my belief of what the price is, it's what the market shows the price is. And that's a big difference because people will go based off what the seller believes the price is. But that's not real. It's not real life. We got to get back to reality. We got to get to earth. And this is what the market's showing. And also, whatever price that we're at, typically it has to appraise if it's going to be a buyer who's using a loan. So if we're at a silly astronomical price, it's not even going to appraise with a buyer who has a loan because it's overpriced, and then you're going to limit your buyer pool to just cash buyers. That doesn't work because now you have an even more limited buyer pool of just cash buyers who could purchase at that price. And are they going to want to pay over market price? Absolutely not. They're going to look at the comp, they're going to look at the neighbor and be like, well, this one just sold for 50 grand less. Why would I pay 50 grand more just because I have cash? That doesn't make sense. So it's all backed by data, and that should give you the confidence. And that's why it's so important that when you are actually pricing a home, I actually just did a video on my YouTube about this, how to price, a property like a boss and have that confidence, and how to deliver the message. And it's looking at the data, really diving into it, looking back if you need to go even a year back. Typically, I just do 6 months, you know, behind and look at the data. And ideally, there's enough comparable properties there, or you kind of expand the search a little bit. But once you have all that data and you've dove into it, typically I do this like at least anywhere from 2 to 4 times before I actually deliver the price. Because sometimes you're in a frame of mind, you're looking at the numbers, okay, cool, got it. And then I'll look at it the next day, the next morning with different set of eyes, a different mental state to try to figure out what did I miss? What's the nuances? What are the outliers? What can be pulled out? Okay, this one's an acre and this one's, a 14,000 square foot lot. Okay, well, the acre doesn't apply. It's not applicable because that's a different category. So you take that out and you kind of just continue to fine tune it until you're really confident in the price. So I at a minimum will be running the comps at least twice. And then I deliver it. And I never deliver on that listing appointment personally, unless I already know the property, I've already seen it, and I can, speak to the value. But if I haven't seen the property yet, how am I going to value it? I
Mm.
don't know that there's these holes in the walls and there's cat pee floor or whatever. So I always say like, oh, I need to get in there, touch it, feel it, smell it, so we can price the property correctly. So
Mm.
typically for me, it depends the vibe or the timeline of everything. But typically, I'm doing the pricing presentation on a Zoom with my sellers so that I can pull up the comps and I can show them exactly, hey, boom, here's the map, here's the comps. You can see them all here. This orange dot is you, and you can see where they're located. And I will go through and I'll show them and I'll scroll through the photos. And I've already seen these so many times, so I could speak to them. I'm like, well, this one sold for da da da. Scroll through the photos. You can see it's great. It has similar upgrades to yours, but it has a pool and yours doesn't. And it also has unobstructed views. So there's that value to add. Okay, let's go to the next. Boom, 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 boom. Send them. And as you go through, they're seeing it. So now you're educating them as to why the price is what it is. This is the data. This isn't me. This isn't you coming up with a price just to secure a listing. Because even if you go with their price and you secure a listing, it's not going to sell. And then you just put up this money and marketing dollars and photos and time and energy and effort. And then you're not going to sell anyways. And I'm going to do it right. And I'm going to sell it and I'm going to get that commission. So
Mm.
you don't want to do that. So yeah, typically I do it on a Zoom call so I can show them everything. And then I'll do that. I kind of jumped ahead, but I'll send the pricing strategy email. I have a template for it. I use it for every single time. And then I curate it to them because every house is a unicorn. It's not a one size fits all. So you have to speak to their home in that property, and then I'll deliver the value at the end. So I'll say, typically when appraisers value a property, they account for things like views and garage and parking spaces and amenities and pools and whatever it is, and then that helps them also be educated as to how an appraiser is going to value it because we need to be pricing it like an appraiser. So I do that, and then at the very end, I say based off the market data and these comparable sales that I included above, I this is the listing price that I suggest. Boom, hit them with the price. Sometimes it'll be a range, but for the most part, I try to give an actual official listing price suggestion. And then I say, as the sellers, you always have the final say on pricing. And then we'll let you know if it's an astronomical, and we won't take the listing if it's overpriced. But ultimately, this is our suggestion to get it sold, to capture the right largest buyer pool, and get it sold and onto the next chapter of your life. And then that's when I schedule after that's sent. I text them, hey, pricing strategy should be at the top of your inbox. I'm sure that's the email that they've just been waiting for. And there's so much data and reasoning behind that list price. So they feel confident in the pricing. And sometimes you want to price a little bit low if you know your seller has super high expectations because you know they're not going to go for your price. But
Mm.
if you meet right here, we're golden. Like, we're good. So you have to also understand the psychology of your seller because it's in their best interest for you to do this for them, to tell them, hey, the price is lower so that I already know you're going to come back and you're going to want 100K more than whatever I say. So they're going to be like, okay, cool. Then I'm going to say, okay, 1.6, knowing that we're not going to go, you're going to take us to 1.7. So you factor in that in as well and give them a little win. Like, hey, I know this hurts. Hey, I'll give you a win at 1.7, even though I knew all along we're going to be at 1.7.
Mm.
So it's really, there's so much psychology, and that's why I love like teaching on it, and I love having I can only share so much in this conversation, but hopefully just this frame of thinking and hearing the strategy helps everybody who's listening have a new way of thinking when they're looking at their listing, and like think about all these little things because it matters a lot and just the way you approach it. So I'm never afraid of the pricing conversation. I love showing it because I'm like, hey, this is the data. Boom, here's the house. You take it off you being the bad guy. And you're like, no, the market's the bad guy. Like I always say I would love to get your home sold for 1.9. Absolutely. Obviously, I would love that. I'm incentivized by your home sale. I would love to make a record sale for the neighborhood and look like, the queen of Paradise Valley, like whatever, like that would be fantastic. Um, but it's just not what the market supports, and it's just not going to happen. So the market data suggests that your home price is worth blank. The market data shows blank. Well, the market data shows it's probably going to take 60 days to get your home sold. Market data shows the average price per square foot is this. So it's not you coming up with it. So that should create so much confidence because you have the data. You have like a script already in place because we have comparable sales to price it off of.
Nice, nice. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is you spend a lot of time on pricing, which is great because I love the fact, and I will say I haven't heard anyone do that before, but it makes a lot of sense about touring the home and then having another strategy call from Zoom because I can't tell you how many times I've done it at the property, and I feel like it's hard for the sellers to really see my like screen or whatever, But I love the fact you do it via Zoom, but it's like a whole different conversation then because that's typically the most important conversation is pricing and what makes sense. But then at the same time, you're also not you don't have, it's not an opinion, right? It's all facts, it's all numbers. And so it's not like you're saying, I think your house is worth this. You're basically saying this is the data, which is hard to argue with facts, because, if it's just like what you think, all sellers think their house is
Right.
a lot more than, than what it's, than,
Right.
so I definitely,
Eliminating that for sure. Eliminating, I think your price is worth this, or I think the market's doing this, or I believe this. You say the market data shows, or the market shows, blah, blah, blah. But if you say data, then in their mind, they're like, okay, there's data there. Everybody knows data doesn't lie, numbers don't lie. So if you get anything from this, is using that script. The market data shows, blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is you need to tell them about. Well, the market data shows that your home isn't going to sell at this price. So we're probably going to have to wait till next year or, whatever. Or even next year, it could be lower. So the market data shows it's this. Are you cool with this? Because if not, what if it's lower next year and you're stuck in your home?
yeah.
But yeah, definitely using that script, the market data, and getting rid of I believe or I think.
Exactly. Yeah, I love it. And there's a lot of amazing nuggets in there, especially for a listening home, because and like you mentioned, you have obviously a course coming up because there's so much psychology behind listing houses and everything like that. So I do want to transition a little bit because obviously you mentioned at the beginning, we're obviously part of the same organization over here at EXP. We're both part of the Wolf Pack. And I've been here about 6 months now over the Wolfpack. You obviously been here a lot longer, and I'm always kind of curious, especially with other fellow Wolfpack members. When you first joined Wolfpack and EXP, what made you decide to join the organization? Like, how did you get in touch with the organization? Like, what did that transition look like? I guess how did you even find the Wolfpack?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I was looking for a brokerage to hang my license when I got dually licensed.
Mhm.
And so I was looking for a brokerage in Arizona and looking at brokerage, keeping my brokerage in Washington. But then I ultimately was thinking about it further. I'm like, well, I want one. I don't want to have to use two different logos or brand two different things or learn different transaction systems or TCs or whatever, learn new processes. That sounds like a lot. I'd rather just have one umbrella to represent both states. So then I realized that all the mom and pop, the only hyper local in that state, are off the books. And I learned about EXP through someone that actually helped me buy my investment property, Airbnb that we have here in Arizona. So I heard about it from her, and then I actually went to it was like some top producer event thing in Kirkland, Washington, on the water, and I met Amanda Aguilar, and we just hit it off. And I knew I wanted to join EXP, and she was within the Wolf Pack, and all the tools and resources and trainings and everything that came from it. There was a no-brainer. I was ready to join EXP because I wanted the one umbrella. That was really the main reason. And then it was the fact that you can icon. At my old brokerage, I was paying like $32,000 a year. At EXP, only paying, the total cap and then getting 100%. And then if you become a top producer and sell 20 homes and you get to become icon and get that 16 grand back in company stock, or hit the $500,000 GCI goal and then you get the full $16,000 back in company stock. I was like, boom, sold. Let's do it. This is awesome. It's going to be a free brokerage. I was paying $32,000 coming to EXP and only paying half of that. I'm like, cool, I got 16 grand more in my pocket to put towards my marketing. Then if I icon, I get that back too. So it's free. That's fantastic. So that was huge. And then the stock options was great. So those were my reasons for joining EXP. And I wasn't looking at any other team, but thank God that God sent me Amanda and the Wolfpack because we're the number one team in the brokerage for growth every single year. We just hit it again for 2025. So that was super, super cool. And number one was retention. So all the tools and resources that we had like blew my mind and they continue to. And since I've been in, just for reference, since you're 6 months and I'm 3 years deep, I've seen already like from those 3 years, every single year there's something new rolling out. There's so many new things. Like we got Canva, we got new countries opening, we got Sisu, we got all these free resources, we got multiple CRMs to choose from now. So like take your pick and it's free. It's incredible. So that's been my experience is just it gets better and better and better. And it's never, I haven't had anything, knock on wood, at EXP where it's been, a negative, like something rolled out where I'm like, ooh, I don't really like that. It's always been like, wow, we get that for free. Wow, we get this tool, or the Wolfpack grew like this, or we're all going on yachts and EXPCon. Like, who can complain about that? So that was awesome. So it just gets better and better, and it's super cool to be a part of and unheard of in real estate and in business. Are you kidding me? In any business, like when does this happen where everybody's so collaborative and sharing value to help each other win and then like doing super cool stuff? So,
Yeah. Out of curiosity, and I know what mine is, but out of curiosity, when you moved over to EXP, obviously you already had your preconceived notions. You talk to a lot of people about what you get and all that stuff. What was your biggest surprise after you joined EXP that you weren't expecting that ended up being a lot better than you thought it was going to be?
oh, that's easy. That's definitely the revenue share opportunity.
Mm.
I poo-pooed on that. I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm just here to produce. I'm here to ball out in real estate. I'm here to, be a seven-figure earner as a real estate agent. And once I realized the opportunity and the fact that I have people all the time that want to learn from me, and I was just giving out game left and right at my old brokerage, like, oh yeah, come to our brokerage, come learn, come whatever. They'd ask me questions and I'd share what I did or the strategies. And now to be able to run an organization and give that value, but not be having to be the main face and voice every day, Monday through Friday, and having where my agents on my team get access to so many people that they could reach out to. Like we have a 3,800 agents in the Wolfpack, and everybody's available to share insights and strategy and game if you want to, but you got to reach out for it. And then also within our own like private organization, we just rolled out and we have our new branding that came out. So we are officially the Dynasty. And we are just so excited about it because it's our own culture that all of us are available to our agents. And it's, again, it's not just me having to do everything and put the team on my back and carry that weight of most team leaders and broker owners where they have that sole responsibility. It's so cool to be able to pass that off and like play to everybody's strengths. So like everybody comes to me for the listings, they come to me for client communication. How do I have these tough conversations? What do I say this tough text that I don't know what to say back? And then there's all these people that have their own specialties, or Amanda, or Sean, or Scott, or Mike, or Connor. All these people that they can reach out to too, where I don't have to take on every single question or issue or concern. And so that was my biggest surprise. You can ask anybody who talked to me. I was like, no, I'm not doing any of that. I don't even want to hear about it. I just want to focus on my production. I want to be on the production calls only. And now here I am just loving it. It's just the coolest opportunity to have multiple streams of income in real estate and not just have commission. Because I've seen people who are, 70 years old and they're still selling real estate and they're still closing the deal and then off to the next and closing the deal and off to the next, but they don't have any other income, no passive income other than like investment properties or stock or whatever they invested in it too. But the opportunity with EXP of multiple streams of income is pretty sick.
Yeah, it's I've heard that story a lot that a lot of people will move over to
Really?
because they were, and not that that's a big a surprise, but like the reality is like there are a lot of people who join ESP because they want to produce, they want to sell homes, stuff like that, that they don't typically want to get a revenue share. But I've heard a lot of people that have said the same thing, like a couple years in, and the next thing you know, they start getting into revenue share and that they love it, and it's been blowing up, and it just takes so much pressure off of you as well too, just to produce. Like if you have a down month or a couple down months, with that revenue share stream, it's no longer on just you. I mean, you have a little bit extra income coming in, so it's definitely, I think it's definitely important. So now,
I
obviously,
agree.
now obviously you have your coaching program coming out here in the future. But if someone wants to reach out to you, or even just like wants to look at what a partnership with you looks like over at EXP at the Wolfpack, what is the best way for an agent to touch base with you and to reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Best way to reach out to me is on Instagram at PK Residential or reach out on my cell that's on all those platforms. You never want to be a secret agent. So, agents out there listening, make sure your contact info is accessible. So, you should be able to find any way to contact me on all of my platforms. My phone number is there, my Instagram is there. So, you can reach out on Instagram at PK Residential and just let me know that you watched this video and we can connect that way. I also have a link in my Instagram where you can book a call directly with me and get coaching one-on-one. I do offer a one-on-one free coaching for the first call, and then we can chat a little bit more about opportunities to connect and collaborate and grow your business. So excited to meet every single one of you. And I know Scott's always has his door open as well. That's a big part of the Wolfpack way is to be here for agents to improve the industry. I think we all have a bigger vision of what this is, and it's really cool that we can do that both nationally, locally, and globally. So if you're in state in Arizona or Washington State, or you're out of state or international, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to connect. This is about relationships. So if we can help you guys in any way,
Yeah.
that's what we do.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I definitely appreciate it. Just so you guys know, I'm going to go ahead and put PK's contact information here in the descriptions as well too. I'm also going to put a calendar link. So if you want to go ahead and book a Zoom meeting with me to feel what a partnership with me and PK look like over at the Wolfpack, click on the link below, schedule a Zoom meeting. Make sure again you let me know that you watched this video, so that way we can make sure we get you in the right place. But PK, definitely appreciate you hopping on today's podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited. I'm excited to bring you to mine. Welcome you over to mine.
Awesome, awesome. Well, guys, you guys all have a great day, and let us know if you guys need anything.
Bye.
Stop.